I'm on page 31 in the section called Control in Zen Mind, Beginner Mind by Shinryu Suzuki Roshi. Control, to spacious meadow, is a way to control them or to control him or her. To live in the realm of Buddha nature means to die as a small being, moment after moment. When we lose our balance, we die. But at the same time, we also develop ourselves. We grow. Let me read that part again. When we lose our balance, we die. But at the same time, we also develop ourselves. We grow. Whatever we see is changing, losing its balance. The reason everything looks beautiful is because it is out of balance, but its background is always in perfect harmony. This is how everything exists in the realm of Buddha nature, losing its balance against a background of perfect balance. What the hell is he talking about? I think what he's talking about is in line with the Buddhist idea and perhaps the Taoist idea that we don't react. I'm, to a degree, an adherent and a fan of Buddhism. I became a Buddhist formally in 2008. But I'm just as well the opposite of such a mind. What the Buddhists call the monkey mind is a place where I get a lot of love and laughs and ideas. So I could never commit to this 100%, but it's an anchor which can keep us from drifting when we need to be more solid in one place. To me, Buddhism is a thing to return to. You obviously can't be thinking like a monk or a monk that we have in our collective minds as stoic and non-responsive and terse and perhaps confusing in his creative answers when we want to be doing comedy or when we have an enemy to fight. Others would disagree. They would say, no, you can always be like a monk. It's all about the state of mind. I could agree there too. But I wouldn't use such dramatic words as die, kill the Buddha on the road if you meet him. These are dramatic ways of saying that you've got to not be hanging onto the coattails of a messiah. You've got to be doing things on your own. And when we overreact to anything, we're coming out of balance. Of course, we want people to overreact when we throw them a surprise party or give them a gift or any number of things that I just thought of, but I edited out of my mind, even though this video is not for kids. But we're in a certain frame of mind right now while we're considering the Buddhist mind, the Zen mind, the beginner mind. So you can appreciate it along the path that it's going or on the track that it's riding. So if you see things without realizing the background of Buddha nature, everything appears to be in the form of suffering. But if you understand the background of existence, you realize that suffering itself is how we live and how we extend our lives. So in Zen, sometimes we emphasize the imbalance or disorder of life. Nowadays, traditional Japanese painting has become pretty formal and lifeless. That is why modern art has developed. Ancient painters used to practice putting dots on paper in artistic disorder. This is rather difficult. Even though you try to do that, usually what you do is arranged in some order. You think you can control it, but you cannot. It is almost impossible to arrange your dots out of order. It is the same with taking care of your daily life. Even though you try to put people under some control, it is impossible. You cannot do it. The best way to control people is to encourage them to be mischievous. then they will be in control in its wider sense. This is similar to what it says in the Tao Te Ching about um, laws. Uh, Too many laws makes the people lawless. So you let them be. To keep your sheep or cow, to give your sheep or cow a large, spacious meadow is the way to control him. So it is with people. First, let them do what they want, and watch them. This is the best policy. To ignore them is not good. That is the worst policy. The second worst is trying to control them. The best one is to watch them, just to watch them, without trying to control them. The same way works for you, yourself, as well. If you want to obtain perfect calmness in your zazen, you should not be bothered by the various images you find in your mind. Let them come, let them go. Then they will be under control. That's brilliant. If I were Suzuki, I would have eliminated half the page and gone from the cow metaphor to that. The whole dot thing. Some of you might be shocked. Oh, he's making fun of the master. Hey, this guy had a great sense of humor. And if you have a good sense of volition, you're not afraid to make fun of your teachers, right? It is in elevating people up too high that we lower ourselves and then we diminish our volition. This is the problem in some countries where the people will only do something when they're told to do it, or when they're told to do it, they will do it. There's no thought in between. This is a dangerous way for a sentient being to be living, and it's why we've had any of the wars that we've had in the world. Even if you have 10,000 men who really believe in some crazy principle that says we have to go slaughter people on the other side of the fence, the majority don't think that way, right? But if they do it anyway, they're divorcing themselves from their thoughts. How did I get there from here? I'm distracted. How you doing? But this policy is not easy. It sounds easy. You know, the policy of letting things and people go and watching them instead of controlling them. It sounds easy, but it requires some special effort. How to make this kind of effort is the secret of practice. Suppose you are sitting under some extraordinary circumstances. If you try to calm your mind, you will be unable to sit. And if you try to be disturbed, your effort will not be the right effort. If you try not to be disturbed, your effort will not be the right effort. The only effort that will help you is to count your breathing or to concentrate on your inhaling and exhaling. We say concentration, but to concentrate your mind on something is not the true purpose of Zen. The true purpose is to see things as they are. Another great point. If you go to my teacher's page for Hanmam Sunwon, that's Korean for One Mind Zen Center, and my teacher was Chongosanim in South Korea, an American-born monk who has been there for, I guess, 20 years by now. He has named the blog for Hanmam Sunwon Seeing Things as They Truly Are. That really is the purpose of Zen. And you're seeing things, which includes yourself, as it truly is. You're not lying about it to yourself or others. The only effort that will help you is to count your breathing or to concentrate on your inhaling and exhaling. We say concentration, but to concentrate your mind on something is not the true purpose of Zen. The true purpose is to see things as they are, to observe things as they are, and to let everything go as it goes. This again is like Taoism, practicing non-doing, letting things be as they are, letting things come and go, letting things happen and occur as they naturally would. This is not to put everything under control. In its widest sense, Zen practice is to open up our small mind, so concentrating is just an aid to help you realize big mind. Let me read that again. Zen practice is to open up our small mind. So concentrating is just an aid to help you realize big mind, or the mind that is everything. If you want to discover the true meaning of Zen in your daily life, you have to understand the meaning of keeping your mind on your breathing and your body in the right posture in Zazen. If you had the text in front of you, you would see that I alter what is written. I sometimes correct for what I think is less than perfect grammar. And I have to make a comment here. This is the second or third time today that I've noticed that something should have been started in a new paragraph and it wasn't. The person who assisted Suzuki in writing this, let us call her the editor. I don't understand how her mind works, but it isn't the way you normally write. Each paragraph in an essay or in a passage is related to the next paragraph, and the connecting line is the last line of the previous paragraph, and it links by ideation to the first line of the next paragraph. Now, they all are encompassed in a similar storyline or theme, but when you're diverging from one point to another distinct point, you make a new paragraph. Zen practice is to open up our small mind, so concentrating is just an aid to help you realize big mind, or the mind that is everything. If you want to discover the true meaning of Zen in your daily life, you have to understand the meaning of keeping your mind on your breathing. See, that should be a new paragraph. And your body in the right posture in Zazen. You should follow the rules of practice, and your study should become more subtle and careful. Only in this way can you experience the vital freedom of Zen. Dogen Zenji said, "Time goes from present to past." This is absurd, but in our practice, sometimes it is true. Instead of time progressing from past to present, it goes backward from present to past. Yoshitsune was a famous warrior who lived in medieval Japan. Because of the situation at that time, he was sent to the northern provinces where he was killed. Before he left, he bade farewell to his wife, and soon after, she wrote in a poem, "Just as you unreel the thread from a spool, I want the past to become the present." That was nice, so I'll read it again since my mouth was twisted. So Yoshitsune's wife wrote to him. This is what she had written. "Just as you unreel the thread from a spool, I want the past to become present." When she said this, actually, she made past time present. In her mind, the past became alive and was the present. So as Dogen said, time goes from present to past. This is not true in our logical mind, but it is in the actual experience of making past time present. There we have poetry, and there we have human life. When we experience this kind of truth, it means we have found the true meaning of time. I think what he means here is when you revel in the past, you're doing it in the present, regardless of how realistic your ruminations are. The images that come and go are being experienced now. Your brain is regenerating them, crafting them, probably changing them, and you're interpreting them now. So the past is flowing into the present. When we experience this kind of truth, it means we have found the true meaning of time. Time constantly goes from past to present, and from present to future. I also think that this means, excuse me, that in the true nature of our psychological concept of time, we have the influence of linear progress that we draw. I found out recently that when the Chinese think of time, they go from top to bottom. So the past is up here and the present is on a graduated descending line. People who read left to right, they will say that time goes this way. People who read right to left will say that time goes this way. And there is even a tribe of people in the world who orients their understanding of the passage of time depending on the cardinal directions. So they have to know where north, south, east, and west is to decide how they're going to graphically describe time. But what I think he's talking about here is it is always the present. When we start to think, we are now immersing ourselves in what becomes the past because we're holding on to the present as time continues forward. And so, the closer we get to the reality of now, then we're coming into the present from the past. Just think of a child in school. He may look at the clock to determine when the class is going to end, but he is ensconced in a mental paradigm involving a paragraph that may exhibit different tenses. And he's in the present imagined tense that is the conveyance of information from the writer of the book to his mind or from the teacher to himself. Yes, time is passing, but he's focusing on this ensconced moment, this cell, this frame. Of course, time is passing, but it isn't the same psychologically as if he were in a rocket on a launch pad watching the countdown clock count from zero and into the mission, or if he were in a racing car watching the time pass from the start, or if he were a referee at a race having fired the gun watching the stopwatch to see how long it takes someone to move around a track. It's like time has stopped when we are thinking, concentrating, although we may be worried about how much time it's taking us to finish a test. In that sense, time is passing too, just like in a race. But when we meditate and when we get lost in thought in meditation, or when we intentionally dream about others or previous time, we're bringing the past into the present, but it is the present which is being spent. And when we come out of that, we're leaving the past and coming into the present. How's that for overstatement? Time constantly goes from past to present and from present to future. This is true, but it is also true that time goes from future to present and from present to past. A Zen master once said, "To go eastward 1 mile is to go westward 1 mile." Because you're heading toward the line which demarcates east and west on the other side of the globe. This is a vital freedom. We should acquire this kind of perfect freedom. But perfect freedom is not found without some rules. People, especially young people, think that freedom is to do just what they want. That in Zen, there is no need for rules. But it is absolutely necessary for us to have some rules. But this does not mean always to be under control. As long as you have rules, you have a chance for freedom. To try to obtain freedom without being aware of the rules means nothing. It is to acquire this perfect freedom that we practice Zazen. And I'll stop there because you probably had enough. Oh, sorry, no questions. Leave your questions in the comments. I'm not a Zen master. I don't even pretend to be a master of Zen. But my personal conception of Zen and Zen ideas, without even meditating much, but falling back on those ideas, is something that gets me out of a lot of trouble quite often. And quite often doesn't, because I forget it. All right. Thanks for joining me. And I'll see you next time. There's only now. And until I find this mouse, I'm caught in the past. What has happened to my cursor? I don't know. It's another one of those days where I'm being failed by technology. Okay, we'll use the mouse pad. Take it easy.